go against the winner between the Lakers and the Trailblazers. Let's go to Ahmad.
This is Michael Jordan in 1991, literally seconds after defeating the Detroit Pistons in the Eastern Conference Finals. While Jordan might look calm and collective in the interview, his humility undersells one of the most important moments in NBA history. At 28 years old and on his way to his first NBA Finals, Jordan had finally overcome the tough and rugged brand of bad boy basketball Detroit perfected in defeating the Bulls in the playoffs for 3 consecutive years prior. And against the Lakers just a week later in the finals, MJ made it clear he was not only just the undisputed best player in the world at the time, but a player who could possibly become the GOAT someday, averaging a ridiculous 31.2 points, 6.6 rebounds, 11.4 assists, 2.8 steals, and 1.4 blocks per game in the 5-game series. In the next 10 years, we all know he would indeed follow through on this potential, winning 5 more championships while keeping countless of other Hall of Famers from getting a single ring. But while all his success throughout the 90s is well documented, if we were to go back 10 years in reverse from 1991, we have another story that simply is not known by enough people. Because in 1981, the same time Larry Bird secured his first championship on the Celtics and was battling Magic Johnson for the face of the NBA, Jordan was just another amateur player looking to make a name for himself in the land of college basketball. So what is good, YouTube? It's your boy Kobe back with another video, and as always, hope you guys are having a blessed day. With The Last Dance coming out on ESPN surrounding the 98 Bulls, I wanted to make a video touching on what I guess is technically Jordan's first dance in the spotlight, which is the 3 years at UNC before he made it to the NBA. Per usual, if you guys enjoy, please make sure to like and subscribe. And with that said, let's hop right into it. When it comes to the story of Michael Jordan and how he blew up on the national scene, we need to first go back to how he actually made his college decision. You see, unlike today's world where college recruiting is a multi-million-dollar market filled with online publications who provide door-to-door service of a player's strengths and weaknesses, the onus of determining the potential of a player was squarely on the individual basketball programs. And of course, prospects at the time did not have social media profiles with millions of followers to give them unlimited national exposure. As a result, there was never a general consensus on the best basketball players in the country, where guys are ranked number 1 through 100. Nonetheless, it goes without saying in 1980, rising senior Mike Jordan of Laney High School from Wilmington, North Carolina, was a player that had interest from a few schools after an impressive junior year. With that said, he wasn't close to a household name either in the state of North Carolina or nationwide. In the summer of 1980, that all changed when Jordan attended a summer showcase called the 5 Stars Camp in Pittsburgh. As Michael puts it himself, this camp altered his life forever, not just because it gave him the confidence he could compete with the top high school prep stars, but also because it brought him countrywide attention from college coaches he did not have before. Yet, fortunately for the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill, the 2 schools Mike had strong interest in, UVA and UCLA, both failed to show the intrigue was mutual. In fact, Jordan's desire to attend UVA even led him to personally send a note to the coaching staff to see if they would watch him play, but they only sent him back a general admission form. Man, what is with Virginia colleges and them disrespecting future NBA legends? I just don't get it. Anyways, worried that the secret was out on this largely unknown talent, Dean Smith and the UNC coaching staff, which included the likes of a graduate assistant named Roy Williams, kept in very close contact with Jordan throughout 1980, and Mike became comfortable enough to commit to the program in November 1980. After a successful senior year for Jordan in high school that saw him become a McDonald's All-American, Jordan stepped onto UNC campus in the fall of 1981. Before people assumed Mike immediately would be the best player in the country upon arriving at school, he actually wasn't even the best player on his team, with future Hall of Famer James Worthy returning as a junior. And also, let us not forget the landscape of the ACC during the time span. While Coach K was just getting warmed up at Duke, Ralph Sampson at Virginia was quite honestly the Tim Tebow of college basketball in the early 1980s. Hopefully you guys know who Tim Tebow is, or I might just be getting a bit older. But seriously, no joke, Ralph Sampson was the face of college basketball, and not even the debut of Mike Jordan could change that. Nonetheless, UNC was the pre-ranked number 1 team in the country, and Mike played a huge role from the start start of the season. From the very first game he played at Carolina, it was clear his ability was remarkably high. In his collegiate debut against the Kansas Jayhawks, Jordan calmly scored a quality 12 points on 50% shooting. Even on field goal attempts he didn't complete like this one here, you can tell he carried breathtaking athleticism and acceleration. Let's also not be mistaken here. This was a very raw 18-year-old MJ, and the Dean Smith four-corner offense really highlighted how different basketball was played back then. Remember, with no shot clock to be worried about, Carolina had no problem playing in defensive battles where possessions were far and few between. And thanks to the trio of James Worthy, Sam Perkins, and the diaper dandy Jordan, UNC had plenty of firepower to cruise through the regular season. While just the third piece, Jordan also showed the trait of a big-time player in all major matchups played that year, scoring 22 points against 9th-ranked Tulsa, 19 points against number 2-ranked Kentucky on Boxing Day 1981, 20 points against 12th-ranked NC State, and 16 points against Ralph Sampson and number 2-ranked Virginia. Carolina won all of these games with him averaging 19.5 points per game on a ridiculous 64% from the field. In the team's first game in the NCAA tournament as the number 1 overall 1 seed, Carolina actually had some trouble against 9th seed James Madison, but squeaked by at a score of 52-50. Although Jordan did not play well in his first career NCAA tourney game, he did just enough in the next 2 games against Alabama and Villanova to get North Carolina back to the Final Four for a second consecutive year. After losing the year before, what was different this time around was that instead of Carolina going to a battle with a guard named Mike Pepper, they had a guy named Mike Jordan. No offense to Mike Pepper. The battle against the Houston Cougars in the Final Four was certainly not an easy one. With 5 future NBA players including a freshman Hakeem Olajuwon and sophomore Clyde Drexler, UNC would get just about all they could handle. Fortunately, similar to how Jordan would rise to the occasion in his future matchup with Clyde, he came through with an 18-point clutch performance that helped Carolina prevail to the score of 68-63. As a result, the reward for this heroics meant a date with Patrick Ewing and the Georgetown Hoyas in the 1982 National Championship. For the Jordan diehards, I'm sure most of you know this is the game Jordan says himself changed his life and quite possibly his career trajectory as the greatest player to ever play the sport of basketball. Because in a back-and-forth matchup that could go either way, Mike once again stepped up to the plate, but this time in far more dramatic fashion. Down 62-61 with 18 seconds left, Jordan knocked down a baseline jumper that would go on to be the game-winning shot, giving Dean Smith his first national championship and Carolina's third. Although James Worthy was named the most outstanding player of the Final Four, the potential Jordan showed in his first college season was nothing short of amazing. And the best news of all for Carolina fans, of course, was that he had 2 full seasons left. In the fall of 1982, the biggest musician in the world, Michael Jackson, released the album Thriller at the height of his superpowers. And while this MJ would quickly hold the record of the world's best-selling album, the much more unknown MJ at Chapel Hill, North Carolina, was just getting started. As Jordan would consistently mention throughout his life, one of his biggest reasons for his immaculate success in the NBA was the guidance given to him by his head coach, Dean Smith. Shortly following the 1982 National Championship game, Smith shared with Jordan his famous letter that goes into exact detail on ways he can improve his own personal game for his sophomore year and beyond. Nuanced instruction, where he shared things like continue to work on your shooting form from certain positions where you usually shoot the open jump shot, or even work on taking the ball low after a defensive rebound and busting out on the dribble. As you can see, no matter how good you were, Dean Smith would continue to challenge his players to get better, as no player was perfect. Credit to Mike, despite already proving his stardom at the end of the season, he simply was not satisfied with where he was at. I mean, as a national champion, he easily could have ignored Dean's advice and instead chased the campus cuties I'm sure were giving him attention, but instead, he kept his butt in the gym. As a result, positive consequences followed, because the 1982 regular season saw Jordan take a dramatic leap in his production, going from 13.5 points per game in his freshman season to a team-leading 20 points per game in year 2. As a first-team All-American and a National College Player of the Year, some of his biggest moments included a 32-point game against Duke and a career-high 39 points against Georgia Tech. Unfortunately, without James Worthy by his side his sophomore year, as Worthy already went to the NBA, Carolina would end up falling to Georgia in the Elite Eight of the 1983 NCAA tournament despite Mike's 26 points. In the 1983 offseason, once again, like clockwork, even taking into consideration Mike's rapid acceleration as a sophomore, Dean Smith shared with him another letter that spoke to what he thought he could do to make his game even better. Notice here the focus on both offense and defense. Even as the best college basketball player in the country, Jordan was still given critique from his coach that would allow him to become a more complete and cerebral hooper. And again, Jordan ditched the campus cuties and got his ass back in the gym. So in the 1983-84 season, UNC and Jordan simply were not messing around. Storming out to a record of 21-0, the Tar Heels led by Jordan were clearly the top team in the country for most of the year, blowing out the reigning national champions NC State, as well as the late great Lem Bias-led Maryland Terrapins. For his part, Mike was pretty much on cruise control throughout the year, averaging 19.6 points per game for a team that really didn't need all of his offense most times. Shockingly though, although they were the overwhelming favorite to win the 1984 title, UNC bowed out to Indiana in the Sweet 16. In his final college game, Jordan had one of his worst games of the season. Scoring only 13 points in a game, Carolina fell short by 4 points. While it clearly wasn't the way he wanted to go out, Jordan's 3-year career was the natural precursor to what we would see from him in the pros. With 2 first-team All-Americans and 2 National College Player of the Year awards, MJ could take solace in his approach to improving his game every single year to become the best player he could be. Once he reached the NBA, I think we can clearly see his process in which he incrementally added something new to his repertoire every year was largely influenced by his time in college. And for the majority of us who cannot take this advice literally, as we are not pro basketball players, I still think we can take away that one of our greatest strengths is our own ability to challenge ourselves to get better each and every year. No matter what field you end up in, the practice of continual improvement can simply change your life. Who knows, you might even end up the GOAT. Anyways guys, that's the video, hope you enjoyed. Just wanted to give some context to a player I think a lot of people only see as the Chicago Bull, but I believe it's also interesting to see MJ from his time in college. Another quick point too, I know ESPN did their rankings on the greatest college basketball players of all time and left Jordan at number 1. I kind of disagree. I think Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, a lot of other players actually deserve a higher ranking, but I'll let you guys answer that in the comments. Do you think MJ was the GOAT for college? Comment below. With that said, hope you guys have a beautiful day or night or whatever time it is you guys are watching. It's your boy TPK. I'll catch you on the next one. Peace out.